I'm going to bring Mr. Gracian,
Yeah,
DeGrace, sorry, Jeff, as in Will.
yeah. So we are going back to regular order. And the next thing on our agenda is, in fact, the um, zoning text change discussion to add a section for tiny homes. And this is not a public hearing. This is just our meeting. But um, I think, Lauren, you are the point person on this. You have anything you want to update us on?
Nothing has changed since I sent the letter to everyone, but I didn't ever hear any response on that. So, because I was not in the meeting that night. So, was there discussion or?
So last discussion, Lauren, we briefly brought up the points that we had discussed in our meeting. Obviously, stated that you were not present that night, as we knew.
Yeah.
And I think I honestly don't remember where we left it, but I do know that staff did express the concerns that were discussed based on the fact the existing ordinances and whatnot. So I don't know how much more detail we need to reiterate.
Yeah, I'm afraid that it was like 2:30 in the morning my time, and I
Right.
don't remember anything. And I did see, and Sharon forwarded it to everybody else for background information. What I thought was an interesting article about manufactured homes as a solution to a lot of jurisdictions' housing shortage problems. And that's something that there had been a certain amount of national pundit level discussion of. And I saw an article basically looking at the actual zoning and code issues that affect houses on wheels. And, the person talking about it was disputing the idea that this was, or that zoning restrictions on mobile homes or constructed homes were really the reason that they hadn't been adopted as a solution to the housing crisis. But all that really was a backgrounder. I didn't mean to suggest anything except that, interesting background information that people might enjoy having. And that's all I've got.
Yeah, I guess my question specifically is like, what was your guys' thoughts on the letter? Like, I got back to you with a lot of information, and how do we see the information that we pulled together to going to city council? Because we had very specific questions that I was answering. And like, what do you think of the answers? And do you want to add to the answers?
Yes, I know I had thoughts, and honestly, I really have forgotten them because it was like 2 in the morning. I need to go back and reread the letter myself. But if anybody else had thoughts about it that we didn't bring up last time,
Just want to note
Take it,
first,
please.
Katie,
yeah,
Katie
Kaylee
Gray,
DeGrasse,
Katie, yeah, she has
she's
her hand
here
up,
to talk
and
about houses on wheels because,
We're not necessarily even talking about that. That's the whole thing.
well, yeah, but I mean, this is unfair of me. I'm speculating because she genuinely does come in and remind us about tiny houses on wheels and the value of them. But usually we do discussion with the board and then we call on the public to comment.
Okay, so the letter, Lauren, you're talking about is the one you sent to Jeff on December 7th?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I looked at it. I wasn't were you expecting some kind of written I mean a written reply to that would be considered deliberation, right?
No,
Or
I was simply
no?
reporting back to you because we have to go, like, we were asked specific questions by Aaron, and as a board, we need to answer them. So this is my research, and then you guys have to figure out what the response is from the board to Aaron.
Okay. Shoot, I wish I did read through it, but a lot of it escapes my mind right now. I mean, is this an appropriate time to offer feedback on the letter then?
I mean, we're
Okay.
supposed to have a joint hearing next meeting, right?
Is it next week?
It's next meeting.
Next meeting, yeah, the 23rd. I mean, okay, so
I mean, we could probably ask to continue that and then have a conversation after everybody has a chance to, because these are just, like what Jeff and Alex and I have researched, and I'm answering the specific questions. Like, I'm not dictating anything, obviously. Like, I just need to
Yeah.
know how we want to answer these questions to Aaron
Yeah,
and to city council.
okay, I mean, I'm just a little bit confused
I
because I don't,
apologize, Lauren. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know that you wanted us to like respond back. I just kind of like read it and put it to the side. So I'm gonna look for it because I do notes. So I'm looking for my paper. So
I mean,
I
I guess
apologize.
I guess I don't need response to you. It's just we have to answer. Like, I don't.
I
need-
think we do though. We should have this conversation just
Yeah.
out of common courtesy of you doing the work. I feel like
But-
that's valid.
But it's also like we can't answer Aaron without planning board having a response. You know what I mean? Like,
Sharon, bless
Is-
her, has put the letter up.
Is this the
this
one?
the one?
No, I think it's the another
Yeah.
one.
not that one.
Okay,
It's the, I don't know if, okay, it's Alex
December
forwarded it.
7th. I
Yeah,
think.
Alex forwarded it to the whole board on December 12th with you and Jeff copied. Its
Well,
title
I'm-
is Tiny Homes. Tiny Homes is the subject name.
I may not be privy to it, but I'm looking.
I'm
Jeff,
looking.
is
too.
it in our files, Jeff?
I can share it. If you...
Sure, go for it.
Well, it's within a document that was sent directly through email. Dated
have-
This is dated Thursday, December 7th at 2:41 p.m.
Today's meeting, that's the original source email.
Can everybody see this now?
Yes. Mhm.
So none of that is in our files, Jeff, is that what you're telling me?
I'm not telling you anything.
Yeah, I got it as an email attachment from Alex.
You were
He sent it
CC'd
to all
into
of
it, Sharon, so I
Okay,
don't know,
yeah.
would you have saved it over?
Well, I'm gonna go look for it. Thank you.
Okay, so I think backing up, we probably talked about this in connection with the two houses that were given to One Holyoke that Mike Moriarty was trying to place on one lot and having difficulties doing so. So to a certain extent, as I recall, we got the letter and we didn't actually do much of anything with it besides focus on that particular issue, which
Was kind of a footnote in the letter.
yeah.
Sharon, there's a document in the folder that says, well, it says zone chance. I'm assuming it meant zone change recommendation, and it says 12/4 of 23. But for some reason, I don't see it as having any size, so I
Yeah.
can't open it.
I
Yeah,
can't
there are a
open,
whole
I
bunch of
can't
them
open
that-
it. I'm filing, saving the content. It's all good for me.
Yeah, there were a couple of these that were forwarded to me that only had the realtor signature block on them for some reason.
Hmm.
But at any rate, here it is.
Yeah. So the questions were, do we have an ability to do a tiny home subdivisions, and what would the regulations look like?
Yeah.
And is it possible to utilize currently buildable lots due to frontage or depth to allow for tiny homes? And this is what we kind of came up with in response.
And I do believe we also came up with the fact that under current ordinances, it is possible to install one of these, and perhaps it might be better to even wait till discussions during the comp plan. And please correct me if I'm wrong on that, Lauren, but I do believe that was
Oh,
the
yeah.
conclusion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
we were looking for the board to perhaps discuss sizing and transport and that kind of thing, and how to anchor. Whereas right now, you can arguably put a tiny house in the city of Holyoke, you just have to have the proper zoning.
Right.
The notes that I have are that that what we needed to talk about, or what I felt like, I can't remember if this was a joint decision or just my notes, but that what we still felt like we needed to make decisions about were what the setbacks would be. And what the sizing, right, the question of size, that those were the main points.
Correct, yes.
You mean size of the lots or the size of the houses?
Size of houses
Um,
constitutes a tiny home, in other words. Is there a minimum and a maximum?
So there's the mass standard for habitation, which it kind of gives the minimum. And then we have like a variety of towns, what their maximum are. A lot of them were crazy big, like 1,500 square feet, which like in no way could I imagine that being considered a tiny home. Like that's a pretty standard home. So I pulled out the ones that were closest to us as guidance for potentially like where we could look for maximum size. Greenfield, Northampton, South Hadley, Great Barrington.
And one thing that I remember we talked about was that the size of the ADU that One Holyoke has is 350 square feet, and if they added a bedroom, it would be about 500 square feet. And honestly, that seems to me like a small home, but barely tiny. So, that seems like, as I was trying to think about what size makes sense, something more in the 500 range seems like what you would put on as a second house, as a maximum for a second house on a lot.
But we're not talking about ADUs. We're talking about tiny homes.
Just about tiny homes.
Right.
I mean,
But it
so
would tiny home this within the context of like subdivisions of tiny homes as well. Right?
I think like ADUs, towable tiny houses, regular tiny houses, it's all different things. So when we try and answer something in a like
It's
bigger way,
circular.
it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
And the ADU portion has already been discussed. So it's like we want to steer away from that. And subdivision is a completely different thing.
Yeah, well, I think, we are struggling with the fact that these questions are semi-related, but they all go back to what do we want by way of housing policy and zoning in the city?
And then,
And
yeah,
we're struggling because we don't know the answer to that question. And we still, despite the fact that Aaron did give us some guidance, I think it still is a really broad question.
can I,
do
well, I think it's a pretty like what would it look like to have the ability to do a tiny home subdivision and what would the regulations look like? We currently allow subdivisions in RM20, RM40, and RM60. Like, are we talking about doing it elsewhere? If we are, that's a whole different conversation, like where we're going to allow subdivisions. And then we have to write in ordinances about what that would look like. So I think where Jeff and I and Alex and I just kept coming to is we're about to embark on the comprehensive plan. And this is something that should really be taken into account there rather than trying
Yes.
to patchwork something together.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think I should probably recognize poor Ms. DeGrace, who has been waiting for quite a long time, and I apologize if, in fact, she did not want specifically to talk about tiny houses. Ms. DeGrace,
Give me one moment.
sure.
Okay, she should be good.
Okay.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you for giving me the opportunity. I know this is not a public hearing and just your regular meeting. I just wasn't able to get here earlier. And thank you for listening to me all the other weeks about this too. So I just wanted to offer, I could have, if you wanted, the president of the National Tiny House Industry Association come give a presentation on like the definitions and and different like zoning things that are going on like nationwide, but also sorry, answer some of your questions, I think. And he also, the Tiny House Industry Association is working with the International Residential Code to have code for tiny houses. So some of that's already been published. Some of it's already been approved in Massachusetts, but the code books haven't been promulgated yet. So a lot of people don't know about that kind of stuff. That is like Appendix AQ and Appendix Q are already Massachusetts state law for building code. But that hasn't been printed yet, so it's not widely known. So if you wanted to listen to Dan Fitzpatrick speak, I could certainly have him come to a meeting if you wanted.
Well, let me first give you a little bit of background, which is also going to come up later in this meeting. Holyoke is embarking on a new comprehensive plan for the city, the sort of thing that used to be called a master plan. We have just selected a consultant to be working with, and basically everything is on the table as we think about what the city is supposed to look like going forward. And, I think that you're offering us useful information that we would love to have, but it may be information that is better presented to a broader audience as part of the master plan process than just presented to us. And, I would welcome anything that my fellow planning board members and associate members have to say about that. But all of the references to let's do this as part of the master plan that you've just been hearing are because of that.
That sounds great.
Okay. So, if you can just keep in touch, make sure that, you are at the table as this process gets launched. And if there's any written material that the association can submit, that would be helpful too.
Is there like a master planning subcommittee kind of going?
There's going to be. There isn't yet, but the planning board is the lead city agency for this.
Okay.
And I would hope that you're going to hear a lot about it because there will be a whole lot of outreach going on.
Okay, great.
Misty Grace, can I ask you a question about the tiny homes you're talking about?
Absolutely.
So what are the typical square footage ranges for these tiny homes you were referring to?
The standard definition is less than 400 square feet.
Okay, and it doesn't have like a minimum area?
We try to avoid talking about minimums just because it feels exclusionary. And because they vary so much. I mean, you're not really going to see ones that are less than 100 square feet. And personally, like I've seen people, living in, homes that are 200 square feet, but, are a family of 4. So the Massachusetts like per person occupancy sizes to me feel a little bit outdated. And I get their origin in protecting people from like slumlord living conditions, but a lot of tiny house people are people who have designed and built their own houses. So like I feel like an owner builder resident situation is a lot different also than like a tenant situation.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in South Korea and their density tends to be much smaller. So it's
Yeah.
a moving target. But the Massachusetts, different laws, building codes, health codes, the sanitary code has, I think it's, CMR 410, CMR 410, minimum standards for human habitation. I think these kind of things put a minimum on legal homes, at least in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
100.
Yeah. And there's also some some things that are really just hard to find. Like Massachusetts has a provision that allows compostable toilets, but it's very difficult to find. And it does require like a backup system to be in place, but these things are allowable in Massachusetts.
I guess I'd love to see us be able to do something about this more quickly than the comprehensive plan, but as we found out through the research that our subgroup, and thank you all, has done, there's so many different facets that it seems hard in my mind to implement something broad without the larger picture of the comprehensive plan. Or the comprehensive plan seems like an opportunity to do it. So I wonder whether what might be more useful right now as a way to continue this conversation with the city council is just, the letter is very good about showing some of the ways in which they might be already available, but maybe a real bulleted version of it that says, here are all the ways that we could have, here are all the places where we could have smaller homes right now without doing much of anything and waiting for the comprehensive plan for the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, however you want to present this to city council is fine.
Can I?
Please.
Was Katie about to say? Okay, Miss DeWay's about to say something.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I never put my hand down.
Yeah. Just okay. I'm just gonna just say certain things. I know in the past meetings, people been upset about things I said, so I either got interrupted or people didn't want to say things. If I'm saying something inappropriate, let me know, but in a polite way. And okay, I know I feel like we're talking in circles or just being very broad, and so I am biased because of my day job as a city planner for another municipality. And one thing I want to just bring up is I attended the CPTC or Citizen Planning Training Collaborative half-day conference, and I took their ordinance update workshop, how to update your own ordinances. One thing the guy said was, don't try to reinvent the wheel. At least try to learn. If somebody has figured it out, another municipality or another state have figured it out, you can at least look into them. Doesn't mean you have to implement it, but just look into them. And I'm gonna specifically mention Northampton. Again, I'm biased. And it might be totally inappropriate, unsuitable for Holyoke's unique conditions. But in terms of things like allowing for multiple densities, multiple types of detached homes on the same lot, they have already figured out most of the logistics. I mean, there's been at least I would say 5 or 10, somewhere in between 5 to 10 approvals granted for multifamily homes on the same lot, mixture of detached and attached types in the past year, the 2023 year. So in terms of like allowing for multiple detached units or attached units, you apply different things like what is the minimum lot area per unit? That's, what is if you have a lot, how many dwelling units do you have? And then based on that, what is the minimum number or minimum square footage of lot you need to have? You just multiply that in a formula that they provide. So I think one thing is that if we want more housing, yeah, sure, zoning update is needed, and then we can start thinking about things like, can we allow multiple detached dwellings on one lot area? And how does the state building code and how does the different cities zoning ordinance allow for that? How they work around that? What are the different types of ownerships? And what are other different types of dilemmas that occur? I think I just want to end it with the saying that if we feel like we are stuck in a situation, it's good to look at different places and see how they are dealing with it. Doesn't mean they're doing it well, but at least it's good to bring some other perspectives. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Models are great to have. Lauren, I see your hand up.
Nathan, I agree with you on what you were saying in terms of like in my letter I referenced in the area that subdivisions are allowed in order to figure out how many houses you would have. It's a math equation on the size of the lot based on what we allow. So I think that you're absolutely right. We need to like it's math. Like this many tiny houses is allowed based on like this is the size of the lot and this is the size of the dwelling and this is the math and this is how it works. The question is, are we going to allow that in areas where subdivisions are not allowed because that's a subdivision? And if so, how do we decide where? And to your point, maybe there are other municipalities that have already solved this problem, but we need to figure out how Holyoke is going to solve this problem. And, you know, I said where the subdivisions are allowed, and then we have to figure out, do we want to allow them in R1 or do we want to allow them in R2? And what does that look like? And then what are those regulations if we do that? So that's why I think I can keep coming back to like, this is something with a comprehensive plan because it's a really big question. It's not just a quick one. Go ahead. Sorry. All good.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you on that part about the comprehensive plan because I hope as we enter into the comprehensive plan process, part of what that might do is create a wider conversation about moving away from single family zoning as a, you know, a way to address our housing crisis. And I worry that if the planning board tries to change single family zoning, it's going to be a big problem and not make any progress. Whereas if it's part of the comprehensive plan and a more general understanding about how moving away from single family zoning is helpful, then it's more likely to, you know, maybe not be allowed everywhere, but make a bigger dent in the housing needs.
Yeah.
And
No, I
to-
agree. I'm all for stealing ordinances once you are at a point where you know what you want the ordinance to do. But that's a policy question, and the city has to address it as a city.
Yeah. And I think that's why when we were doing this research, we kind of focused on where are these tiny, like
Yeah.
where are subdivisions allowable? Because we can work within that context, right? And we're not changing zoning for zones that are R1 or R2. Yeah, so.
So, Kate, and this is not technically relevant, but you look and sound miserable.
Yeah.
Should we be moving this
I kind of am.
along just to get you out of here? Because
Yeah,
I
I spent
feel guilty.
I spent 24 hours in transit to get back here and I have a cold. So yeah, I am a little miserable, but
Okay. Ms. DeGrace, your hand is back up.
Maybe you need to unmute.
Yes. Yes, you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you. I do have concerns about the mobile home part of it because, you know, if we are talking about tiny homes on wheels, They really aren't mobile homes, and they're actually built under two different codes. So I would hope that we could kind of clarify some of that.
Yeah, well, yes, as we move forward with this whole thing comprehensively, we do need to know that sort of thing. But since this is a larger discussion, and I think we've probably exhausted it for tonight, I'm going to suggest that we take this up again when we are before the city council, which will be any moment now. And we won't close it out then either. The discussion will continue. But for now, I would like to move along to the zoning text change discussion for wireless telecom facilities, because we still have a chunk of agenda to get through, and I would like to be able to release poor Kate. So hearing no objection, I think where we left wireless telecom, I at least had advocated strongly for let us steal the ordinance from Chicopee to the extent possible on the same analysis that Nathan just suggested, which is why not use other communities' work if you can. And Jane was looking at that ordinance, I think.
Yes, I drafted an ordinance and I had forwarded over to staff for circulation to the planning board. I also did circulate to John Zwerko at HG&E for his review, and he did have some comments, and he wanted a little bit more time for internal review with his folks with respect to his comments. So what I would, I guess, ask the planning board to do at this point, because I did just get it over to you guys within the last, I don't know, 48 hours. I can't even remember when it went over. But I would definitely this week ask that we continue it to the next hearing to give HG&E some additional time to internally review, so I can come back with those comments and concerns and any potential changes that they have made, because John did initially just point out some things that he wanted me to look at, and concerns with it, not like big ones, just like some additional things he wanted in there. So I think that might be beneficial.
Sounds good to me. Any objections? And this is just on our general agenda, so we don't even have to continue. We can just stick it on the next agenda where, if you want it for the next meeting, although the next meeting is going to be, no, it's actually on.
It is on for the
January
next
23rd.
meeting. Jointly with the ordinance committee.
Yeah. So that is when the public hearing will reopen, and we can just deal with it then. And if there's anything you want us to do in the session before we join them, we can look at that then too.
I wrote a few comments on the draft and just now remembered to send it to you. So
No worries. Thank you so much, Kate.
Yeah, I did the same thing too. Can I send it to you, Jane, then?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you think
You're
planning
welcome.
might be able to have a copy of those edits, or you don't think it got any value?
Everybody,
Uh,
yes, planning should have copies too. That would be great.
mine were pretty minor, but I will happily send it.
Yeah, I will send it to you, Jane, and you, Sharon and Jane. I'll send it to Sharon and Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let me just do that now.
Okay, bringing us to zoning text change for short-term rentals, which I think we're still not really talking about because we're not there yet. We're waiting for further information, if any. And this, in fact, may never be taken up again because there was some push from the city council, but apparently whatever was driving it has now vanished. So unless anybody has anything more to discuss with this.
Is there someone among us who feels in charge of this? Because I also jotted down some comments based on the Quincy ordinance that was sent around. And I can send those comments to whoever feels like they are. I don't know if it's Jeff or. if it's a staff thing.
Yeah, I don't know whether we did put any actual board member onto this. I think not. And
This is.
Are you guys waiting on me for something?
well, I think we were waiting on how we want to proceed because Kate actually started working on the Quincy ordinance and the other ordinances we had seen around the short-term rentals thing. And I was perhaps incorrectly under the impression that the entire short-term rentals question was going away because nobody on the city council had any interest in it anymore. And, I don't know whether Jeff or Alex were actually working on this or whether any other member of the planning board was treating it as a live issue. Or if we should be, despite my sense that it was about to go away.
There was no specific staff working on this. It was, honestly, it was a request of, Davin Pazik earlier, the zoning officer, earlier this year in direct response to an issue that was happening at a site here in the city that was dealing with short-term rentals, but an expansion of that, and then it was a bunch of complaints because of it. So, which has since kind of resolved itself. I'm not saying it's not important, but I don't think it's a priority.
Yeah, I think that was Todd McGee's order, wasn't it? Originally?
I do believe he was Todd McGee's order on behalf of whether it was Davin or even say Aaron as department head.
Yeah. So if we can find that out, because we are about to have our first meeting with the new ordinance committee and new city council, and certainly if they still want to pursue it, we can get back to it. But if they're not going to pursue it and it's become this orphan issue.
I do remember it was more like a personal problem. Somebody was upset using their property like an Airbnb, and they were questioning the whole Airbnb and taxes and how they should apply for like small business through the city. Like it was a bigger ordeal, but it was more personal.
Yeah, and the counter argument is that this is an issue that's going to come back and we should get in front of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like maybe we don't need to do it this month, but I think we should do it soon.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we put it back on the agenda for February 13th and talk about it then?
It's already on the agenda for January 23rd.
Huh. Okay, I see tiny houses, I see the remand, I see short-term rentals. I do not
Is that
see,
what we're talking about?
no, this is, or I do not see, I do see, you're right, I am blind. It is on the agenda for January 23rd, so we can ask the the ordinance committee, what, if anything, they expect us to do about it. Or we can just tell them that we're working on it to be continued.
If I may, can I just ask Jane a quick question while she's still
Sure.
here? I mean, not that she's going anywhere, but just Jane?
I'm already gone.
Okay. Thank you. So, it's that one brain cell firing, right?
It is.
How does it work when the ordinance committee has now changed composition as far as them carrying a hearing into a new year?
Yeah, I mean, technically, it should be fine, but that's not how it's been done in the past, I believe. We've been having this discussion at the solicitor's office as well. That, how the city council has been handling it, I believe that they have been essentially saying, if an order has not been fully resolved at the time of the changeover, then the order needs to be resubmitted. But I'm not necessarily sure how that's going to work. It's an ongoing discussion in
Yeah.
our department as to how it would work for certain hearings that are required under time periods for public hearings, right? I can't imagine that it would affect that. So I would say with respect to proposed ordinance or zoning changes like this, because there's a certain time period under 40A that I would think that they would not be affected. But I would put a pin in that and I can look at it, but I know we've had this discussion for the last, couple weeks in the solicitor's office.
I mean, obviously too, I mean, even timing aside, it's still an issue of, it's not like a Mullen Rule thing where they can go back and listen to one hearing,
Right,
because there's been several. So,
right.
just wanted to follow up. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we should definitely hash that out a little bit more. And report back to planning, because it's definitely an issue and it's a good point.
Well, there's a new chair. The new chair might be more amenable to, of course, we can keep going with this and we should rather than start all over than previous people have been.
Lauren has her hand up, Mimi.
Oh, right. Okay. I should stop looking at the other screen and start looking at this screen. Lauren.
So if that's the case, does that mean that potentially all of the things that we're talking about with ordinance would be up for, like, maybe we're not gonna actually talk about them?
I would really hope not, Lauren. I really hope that those ones, because they're specific under statute, under 40A, and the time
Yeah.
periods that are set in there, that those would continue on. But I honestly need to vet that a little bit more with what's been done in the past and what's actually, because it's illogical that you would have to restart everything. So I just feel like in my bones that that's not the case. But with respect to other things, I know that the council has in the past taken the position that with an all new council, it's resubmitted. I don't know if Jeff
remember,
or Sharon have any other experience.
I was gonna say that a lot of times new orders are filed, but it wasn't like a new public hearing went out. It would be like,
Right,
kind of like pause, place the order to get it on paper for a new timeline, but then it was more like, here's all the information that had been submitted for all of the new board to like hear it all, and then they resumed. But I'm no lawyer.
Well,
mm. You knew more than I did. No, but it's for
Yeah.
public hearings, it doesn't seem like that would be, that they could just like essentially restart, like I feel like they have to continue on. So,
Yeah, I could make the counter and say, if you have no experience on this or have never attended this subcommittee meeting, you might have no experience with this at all. So now you're
Right.
taking it up cold, not have hearing the first 3 hearings worth of material. I'm just playing devil's advocate, I mean,
No,
ideally, I don't
it's-
want to restart this, but I'm just saying that it could be argued that way.
Well, that's why
completely
Linda would-
appropriate.
Right, in the past, Linda would give all the new people all of the documents that had been submitted for review, and then,
I mean, there has to be something, I feel like this is not the first time this had come up, but there has to be something in the depths somewhere that I can find quite easily. So I think, yes, Jeff, let's follow up and then we can report back to the board.
Thank you.
Yeah,
One
that would be
more
great to know.
tiny question.
Yeah.
If the city councilor who initiated it is no longer on city council, would that have any bearing on it?
I think a new city councilor would have to resubmit the order to get it
Because like
back
tiny
on,
houses
so-
was Todd McGee.
Right. I don't know. I mean, usually there's some counselors, I mean, granted, it's a new council, but there's counselors that we know that are willing to submit orders as long as they're reasonable and they think it would be best for Holyoke. So I'm confident that if the planning board and staff felt that tiny houses was still something that we wanted to move forward with in the city, that we could find a counselor to put it on.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, I've really been thinking in terms more of whether we would have a counselor who was interested in moving forward than whether we would be able to move forward with it. So anyway, that is where we are with that. And this moves us along to project updates, old business, new business, where we have actual news, which you guys probably already have, is that the mayor has approved the selection of a consultant group to work with us on the comprehensive plan. So there had been some confusion about whether we needed to vote on it or whether somebody else was the authority, but that has been resolved in favor of the mayor, and the mayor has said yes. And I'm not sure what the next technical step is, but the consultant will be agency consulting, assuming no catastrophes. Kate and I and Jeff were all on the selection committee, and we did have, a good response to the city's RPF. And we had extensive interviews with several firms. And the firms turned out, I didn't realize this, but they were kind of organized as consortiums of people from other or independent little companies like Niche Engineering that Aaron mentioned earlier. And they work with agency. So we will indeed be seeing much more of them as the project develops. But it was a time-consuming process. I think you've all now gotten drafts of the agency proposal, and I think everybody we talked to was qualified, but in the end, there was consensus. We had 5 voting members of the selection committee, and all 5 voting members wound up going for agency. And I hope that we will all get to talk to them soon. And I have only the haziest notion of the amount of work that is going to pile up when this process starts. But the planning board is the lead agency for it. And I'm sure that once all of the formalities are concluded, we are going to suddenly have a whole lot of work drop on our heads. But both Kate and Jeff were also on this selection committee with me. And now that I've done the announcement, are there any comments that either of you want to make about this?
I mean, I'll just say briefly, I was really excited about them and their proposal, and I think it's going to be an enjoyable thing to work with them on this. And I think they'll give us exciting ideas as well. So as much enthusiasm as I can muster right at the moment, I'm mustering for this.
Okay. So questions from anybody, which I probably won't be able to answer, but I can try.
Yeah, I think it's a great step. One little thing, I think their proposal document was a scan rather than a PDF. Like a pristine PDF. I'm wondering if we can get a pristine PDF.
Of their proposal?
Yeah, their proposal. I might be confusing with another proposal, but yeah, that'd be great if we can have a pristine copy.
Yeah, let me see what I've got. If I have a PDF, I will send it to you.
It's probably in the Google Docs we had.
I was gonna say, wasn't that part of
Maybe.
what I sent today and put in the Google Doc?
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, somebody sent us something that was in an unconventional format, and I just don't remember who they were.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. I mean, I think just a minor detail. Oh yeah, so
Nathan, Sam?
yeah, so in the email you sent on Monday named comprehensive plan, the price proposal, actually that's never mind. These are very short documents. They are not the full proposal, so that's fine. Don't know what I was thinking.
So you're good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So the final substantive thing that I've got is the Westfield proposed distribution center, where, we were going to send a letter saying, please, basically do not approve something that's going to send a whole lot of traffic over Route 202 into Holyoke. And when I finally dug down and was able to download the proposal that I found, it turned out that there was a paragraph in it basically saying, we're not sending any traffic over 202. So rather than making a fuss over it, we wound up not sending a letter. However, I have recently heard from the people that you all got a letter from. Yes, I see Kate nodding. So I will not go looking and finding their names again. But we got this letter, and I heard from them today that they had unearthed a so-called revised or revisions to plans, which now indicate that they are, in fact, proposing to send traffic over onto 202. And I don't have the dates handy. I don't know when this revision was presented to us. This kind of just blew up this afternoon. But, it looks to me as though we, somewhat or more of us, should probably reach out at minimum to the Westfield Planning Board and say, hey, what's up with this? And find out whether, in fact, this has changed, whether they are sending traffic now over into, or proposing to send traffic over here if this proposal is approved, and whether, in fact, that means we have to scream bloody murder about it again, because that's a lot of truck traffic. And at least in the last iteration of this plan, when it was still Target, it did not look as though it had been properly reviewed. So I suppose, to the extent that there's anything to, further for me to say about this, since the next Westfield Planning Board meeting is next week, whether, what is everybody's pleasure? You just give them a call, ask, and attempt to put together a revision of our last letter for next week's meeting, if it's appropriate. Take some other course of action.
I mean, a letter might be good. I mean, if it's like the previous Target meeting, there was 100 people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much opposition that I mean, it was a little drop for the planning board, and there was another city councilor there. Just a little drop. It'd be nice though if we feel strongly about it. I mean,
Yeah.
my main concern was that road. I forgot the name of the road, but the road that people most likely take, that the one with a lot of accidents. It'll just intensify with this proposal likely. And I think that was reiterated in the last letter. So if I mean,
Yeah, that was the issue the
Yeah.
last time.
Right,
It was
right.
both the potential for, more truck pollution washing off that road into the aquifer. And it was the potential for, we already have hideous traffic problems coming in on 202 and then across Homestead. And this is not something where I take the, even if it is 5 to 10% of their traffic and not most of it, I think I take it pretty seriously. And last time we had a little more lead time on it, and we wound up spending a whole lot of time communicating with the state, because this is a huge application, and just trying to find out the state of play and what rights Holyoke had to intervene. And I'm a little concerned about timing, to be honest, because at that time we had the additional time to, I was able to drop just about everything else and spend 3 days on it. Jeff put in a whole lot of time communicating with the state authorities. I am not sure that we have anybody who's really in a position to put in that kind of time between now and then. But, if our contacts over in Westfield can confirm that, yes, they are now planning on bringing traffic in over 202, or at least they don't have strong measures to prevent it, maybe we could at least get Holyoke's objections to this on record again. So I suppose I'm asking whether you want us to try for it or not.
If you have the energy to
say-
do it, I say yes.
I concur
Seems
with
important.
Kate. I think so too. After reading that letter, and thinking of other projects, I can put a lot into perspective. I think it's very important as well.
Okay, I suppose at this point I should call for a vote to authorize us to send a letter pointing out our strong concerns to the Westfield Planning Board should we not receive assurances that this is in fact not happening.
I move that we send such a letter.
Is
Second.
there all in favor?
By roll call vote. Rosanna,
Yes, ma'am.
Nathan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and Mimi.
Yes. Okay, thank you all. I will see what I can do. And does anyone else have anything for old business, new business, stuff we need to talk about before we go on to meeting schedule? Okay, then, meeting schedule, January 23rd. We have the Duncan remand or possibly discussion in public meeting rather than public hearing, depending on what the lawyers wind up telling us. They did assure us that they were going to be there.
So if it's not the public hearing site plan review, would we still need to open and continue that? Because it's
Yeah, if that is where it comes out, it should still be on the agenda. And, my feeling is we would then open and continue, but then we would take it up as a public meeting item agenda. So it should be on as both, unless we hear otherwise from our counsel.
Gotcha.
Jane or Mike will tell us what to do.
Okay.
And we have presumably the joint hearings with the ordinance committee on short-term rentals, the small wireless and tiny houses. Unless it turns out those all have to be refiled, which we hope will not be the case. And I don't think we added anything else, did we?
Not on that night.
Okay, the 13th, we have the Northampton Street residential development. If that doesn't get continued, it often does. And we have the ESG thing.
Yeah, I also have coming up a special permit for a public hearing for a sign for Savings Haven on Dwight Street. That is the former American Rug.
Okay. And I think the last item we have is minutes, which, as I recall, I don't know why we didn't vote them through last time. I seem to remember a general agreement that we were happy with them.
This is a new set, if I'm not mistaken.
Is a new set?
Yeah, these are new sets.
Okay,
I didn't get a new set,
I
Sharon.
didn't get a new set either.
Yeah, me neither, Sharon. You said in the
Huh.
last email, minutes are forthcoming, and then I think you didn't
I'll
send
see
it.
it. Huh. Well, looks like they'll be on the next one.
Okay, so we can add
I
that to January 23rd.
Okay. I'll also have to put on executive session so we could approve some executive session minutes.
Yes, sounds good.
Insane. Okay.
Okay, is there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up or needed to bring up?
Can I bring a couple
Nathan.
things? Thank you. CPA meeting is tomorrow, and they're here. They're reviewing, or the applicants are gonna present. So there's gonna be I don't think it's a hearing, but public meeting.
Yeah.
I've been able to attend the past few months because of a conflict in class, but I'm gonna be able to attend tomorrow. And Lauren, the subdivision questions you had earlier, like I wasn't clear what you were asking, but maybe if you want, you can email me or we can talk about it later if it's appropriate. It doesn't violate any meeting law, but yeah, maybe we can, if you want, you can email me or we can discuss it. I mean, I can provide some examples of other subdivisions and other ways people deal with building tiny homes on multiple lots or one lot. So just letting you know.
Thank you for that. I wasn't asking a question about subdivisions. I was sharing information that I had from our ordinances about
Okay.
subdivisions and
Okay.
how we could potentially do a tiny home subdivision, but that's a question that the board needs to have a conversation around. Yeah.
Right. Then, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thanks.
I will send you an email for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks.
Okay, anything further? Because if not, it is time for me to call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn.
I'll second. Or
All in favor?
By roll call vote, Rosanna,
Yes, ma'am.
Nathan,
yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and Mimi.
Yes.
Okie dokie.
Thank you all very much. To be
Feel
continued.
better, Kate.
So just for the record, I won the bet today because it's 8:33 my clock time. I said 8:35 closest to without going over. So
Had the board had those minutes, I would have won.
so I'm sorry, I won. Thank you.
Well, congratulations for your win.
Small
Feel better,
victories.
Kate.
I
Get
don't
some
get that
rest.
many, so small victories.
So every